Some places teach you to whisper with your bones. Arlington does it with light and distance, the way mist clings low across white headstones, the way sun burns the marble until it looks like a blade. Flags speak in sharp syllables overhead. Flags snapping. Boots keep time on stone, the steady verdict of a promise made once and never taken back. Boots striking stone. The air is cool, Virginia, sweet with autumn leaves and a thin thread of gun oil, the kind of fragrance that means care more than danger. It is a morning built for silence. Then the rope trembles. A small hand slips free. A red jacket flashes like a flare, and a child breaks from the crowd, sobbing, running crooked across the pale steps toward the black mat where no one is permitted. His mother's voice tears after him, "No, sweetheart, stop!" But fear has its own legs. The crowd inhales, the sound one long rip of cloth. Crowd gasps. The tomb guard is in motion when the world changes. 21 measured paces, heel to toe, the rifle a mirrored line of sun. He halts mid-step, boots slamming to a stop. Steel sings in the sudden stillness as the bayonet tilts with his frozen balance. The child staggers onto the mat, wailing so loudly the archers throw the sound back. Child crying echoing, velvet stanchions shudder as hands lunge and miss. The braid rough as rope burns under the mother's grip. Polished marble returns everyone's panic in hard, white reflections. He is trained for storms and ceremonies, for tourists and thunder, for disrespect and rain, but not for this. The oath says, never break bearing. The oath says, guard the silence. The oath never accounted for a 6-year-old with tears on his face and shoelaces eating his ankles. The guard pivots just enough to keep the tomb at his back, the crowd controlled by the width of his shoulders and the force of his stillness. Rifle snapping. The boy stumbles and catches himself on scraped palms. The marble is cold under his small hands, unforgiving and clean. The smell of his fear rides the air, salt and wool and the dust of a dropped candy still stuck to his sleeve. "Buddy," a tourist calls, instinct free of permission. "Hey, champ, come back this way." Another voice hisses, "Don't move, don't touch," and dies against the weight of place. The mother's breath soars in the quiet. She leans across the rope until it bites her wrist. "Baby, please, come here." The guard's eyes track without breaking their line. To move is to fail. To turn his back on the tomb is something he has never practiced. Wind slips through the stone corridor and lifts the flags as if the building itself is taking a breath. Wind through marble arches. The boy hiccups mid-wail and stares up at the silent giant with the shining rifle and the immutable face. A veteran near the front plants his cane on the step and whispers to no one, to everyone. "Easy, son." He means the guard. He means the child. Maybe he means himself. He has seen uniforms crack and men hold anyway, and this moment feels like both. Protocols are simple until they touch a human face. The guard feels the rifle's grip under his palm, steel, cool and perfect, wood polished by 1,000 hours. His uniform fits like law, crisp wool at the cuff brushing rifle stock, brass bright as first light, seams cut sharp enough to shame a mirror. Discipline holds his body like a frame. But the crying shakes the breath out of the plaza, the sacred hush turns brittle, and the silence he protects fractures where innocence lives. The boy tries to run again, panic tripping him forward, too close now to the tomb and the line the guard keeps like a heartbeat. The mother sobs his name. A security officer lifts a hand and then lowers it, arrested by the mathematics of distance and reverence. The child's sneaker skids on the black mat. He falls to his knees, palms slapping the surface with a small, terrible clap. The guard moves without moving. His boot plants with a sound like a gavel refusing an argument, heel strike echoing. The rifle angles, not menacing, not casual, present. The bayonet catches the sun and throws it down around the child like a thin white fence of light. The crowd goes absolutely still, murmurs dying. He does not speak. He cannot shout. The voice that keeps the world in line here is usually the absence of a voice. The boy's sobs hitch into hiccups. The guard holds the horizon with his eyes and the little figure with the square of his stance. His shadow lengthens across the mat, touching the child's shoes, touching the base of the tomb, fusing man and stone in a single stark geometry. The inscription breathes behind him, known but to God, the words now part of the picture his body draws. It is the legendary image, born without permission. A sentinel frozen mid-step, rifle slashed with noon sun, shadow soldered to the sarcophagus, and a child, red coat vivid against pale marble, looking up through tears at the quiet that guards the nation. "Baby," the mother whispers again, voice breaking into prayer. "Please." The boy looks at the guard, then at the crowd, then back at the guard. The sobs soften, become small, wet breaths. A leaf skitters across the plaza, dry and brown, flashing like a little bird in the light, and sticks in the cuff of his coat. He does not brush it away. The mat is cold under his knees. The world is very big. In the guard's chest, every muscle knows the drill. In his throat, nothing. He is a wall that breathes. He is a man who is not allowed to be a man right now. The silence that usually punishes disrespect must become a hand that steadies a frightened child, and he is not sure what shape that hand can take if it cannot open. A tourist near the back whispers, "He can't move." Another, harsher, "He'd better do something." The veteran's hand tightens around the cane until tendons stand like cords. "He's doing it," he says, gravel softening in the saying. "Watch." The boy's shoulders hunch with a fresh sob. His small face crumples, and he turns as if to run deeper into the forbidden, away from the gnarl of rope, away from the reaching fingers, away from his mother's plea. The guard draws a breath that sounds a lot like courage. The rifle's weight shifts on the smallest axis, the barrel lowers by the width of mercy. It is not a word, it is not a step, but it is a break. Clean, undeniable, a thread of protocol loosened for a child's heartbeat. The mother's hand flies to her mouth. The crowd's silence implodes into a low shock that has no syllables, sharp intake scattered. The veteran closes his eyes as if he's seen a miracle shaped out of discipline. The guard holds there, steel bowed by an inch, and the child's crying pauses in the space the sound leaves behind. The plaza waits, every nerve turned outward. And then the child lifts his eyes to the soldier and tries to stand. The sun climbs higher, baking the marble until it blinds, a hard white fire that presses on eyes and shoulders alike. Sweat beads on brows in the crowd, the rope shivering under the crush of anxious hands. Crowd murmurs rising. The child still stands frozen in the forbidden space, red jacket vivid against the pale stone, his cheeks wet, hiccuping sobs breaking the air. The guard has not spoken. He has not moved beyond that single fracture of protocol. The rifle lowered a fraction, the silence bent to steady the boy's fear, rifle snapping faintly as weight shifts. His bearing is still thunderous, but thunder softened to shield instead of strike. The crowd feels it. Reverence hangs thicker than heat. The mother's voice breaks through again, cracking like dry wood. "Baby, come back. Please, sweetheart." Her fingers bruise against the velvet rope, the coarse braid digging into her skin. She would leap across it if courage overpowered fear, but something about the soldier's stance roots her in place. One of the businessmen near the back scoffs low, words carrying too far. "It's a show. He's not allowed to break character, can't do anything." The veteran turns his head, eyes flaring. His voice cuts through the murmurs, iron against heat. "Not a show, a vow." The boy trembles, small fists clenching. His sneakers squeak softly against marble, the sound so thin it seems out of place in this cathedral of silence. Child's sobs, softening. The guard pivots, the motion exact, bayonet flashing in midday sun. The sudden shift of steel makes the boy freeze mid-step, tears caught on his face. The crowd gasps. Sharp intake. Then stillness. The guard slams the butt of his rifle into the stone, rifle butt cracking marble. The crack ricochets off the arches, booming across the rows of headstones, as if every grave answered back. Flags snap high in the gust the sound seems to summon, flags snapping. The boy jolts, eyes wide, sobs cut short. The crowd falls into a silence so absolute it aches. Even the wind seems to stop, as if the world itself is waiting. The guard lowers the rifle again, not in surrender, but in command. The command of presence. His gaze never shifts, fixed past the boy, past the crowd, locked into eternity. Yet the message is clear. This space is guarded not by violence, but by reverence. The child feels it. Everyone feels it. The mother whispers his name, voice trembling but hopeful now. "Come here, baby. You can do it." The boy hesitates, sniffles, rattling his chest, then takes one shaky step back toward the rope. The crowd exhales as though a verdict has been lifted. Crowd exhale. But the veteran's voice rises again, breaking the hush like prophecy. Even the tomb bends for innocence. His cane strikes the marble once. Cane striking stone. The words hang heavy, louder than jeers, heavier than command. The crowd shifts, awe dawning across faces. Legend hardens in that instant. The sentinel, rifle angled down, bayonet glowing under the sun. A child's small frame frozen before him, marble blazing like fire beneath their feet. One man's silence holding the weight of thousands, broken not by disrespect, but by compassion. A tourist whispers, half in fear, half in reverence, "He'll be punished for this." The mother finally pulls her son back across the rope, clutching him to her chest. She weeps into his hair, her tears cutting lines through the smell of sun and sweat. The rope sways from her desperate tug, velvet rough against her skin, swinging slowly, as though time itself had been bent. The guard does not react. His boots strike the marble again, cadence resuming, voice returning to silence. Boots clicking steady. 21 steps, pivot, rifle snap, ritual restored. But the crowd knows they have seen something forbidden, something human and holy colliding on sacred stone. The veteran leans back in his chair, eyes wet, whispering so low only those nearest hear him. "I've seen men break, but I've never seen silence bend like that." And as the guard marches on, the whispers ripple outward, discipline bent for a child's tears, a vow tested by innocence. The plaza waits, unsure if reverence has been shattered or reborn. Afternoon shadows creep across Arlington like long black blades. The sun lowers, softer now, but the marble still glows, a pale fire under the sky. The eternal flame burns brighter against the deepening blue, smoke curling like script written upward. Eternal flame crackling faintly. The crowd has settled into a hush, heavy with reverence and unease. The child clings to his mother's waist, face pressed into her coat, his sobs muffled. But the rope sways again. He looks back at the plaza, wide-eyed, drawn not by mischief, but by something he doesn't understand. His small hand twitches, as though the silence itself calls him. The mother kneels, pleading softly. "Stay here. Please. It's not a place for you." Her voice breaks. She knows he doesn't grasp why this ground is different. The boy only stares at the sentinel, whose figure dominates the mat, rifle gleaming with each pivot. Rifle snapping. The guard has resumed his march, but every step is heavier now, every turn more deliberate, as if the entire weight of discipline strains against the memory of that child's cries. The veteran leans forward in his chair, eyes glinting. His cane rattles against his knee. "He can't look away," he mutters, meaning both the boy and the guard. Those nearby hear and nod silently, their breaths shallow. The child hiccups, steps toward the rope again. The mother's hand flies to him, rough velvet scratching her palm as she holds him back. "No, baby," she whispers, tears welling. The boy shakes his head, lower lip trembling. "But he's looking at me," he says. And maybe he is. For the first time, the guard halts just a second longer than the ritual allows. His boots strike the marble. Boot strike echoing. But instead of pivoting instantly, his body seems to breathe, as though something beneath the steel has stirred. His eyes, still fixed forward, still eternal, flicker almost imperceptibly, and the boy catches it. The crowd leans forward, a ripple of disbelief passing through them. The veteran grips his cane tighter, whispering, "Don't break, son, unless it's for the right reason." The child squirms from his mother's grasp, slipping under her arm. He stands at the rope, tears drying in streaks on his cheeks, face tilted upward, small body trembling but steady in the sentinel's light. The crowd stiffens. Crowd murmurs low, and then it happens. The guard pivots, rifle snapping clean, rifle snapping sharp. He halts before the tomb, his shadow stretched across the black mat, touching both the stone and the child who dares to stand at the edge. The boy freezes, breath caught, heart hammering. The guard lowers the rifle, not much, not fully, but enough to shift the air. And then, slowly, with a grace carved from years of refusal, he bends one knee. Wool brushes marble. The steel remains in his grip. He kneels, not to the boy, not to the crowd, but into a space between duty and humanity where the two fuse into something greater. Gasps tear from the onlookers. Crowd gasp. A woman whispers, "My God, he broke bearing." A man mutters, "He's finished." The veteran's eyes glisten. "No," he says, voice rough. "He's remembered." The boy stares, tears shining again, but no longer in fear. He takes one hesitant step forward, past the rope, his shoes whispering against stone. The mother reaches out, desperate, but stops when she sees the guard's hand, steady, unflinching, rest across his rifle, not in threat, but in welcome. Legend sears into memory. The sentinel kneeling in full uniform, rifle still in hand, eternal flame behind him, marble glowing. A small child in red coat before him, tears lit by sunset. A soldier who swore never to break posture, breaking it in silence for the sake of innocence. The crowd holds its breath, reverence bending into awe. And then the whispers ripple sharp and fearful. He'll be punished for this. They'll end his career. A guard never kneels. The boy steps closer, drawn by the silence that has become softer, human. The guard waits, a wall and a bridge at once. And the part closes on a knife's edge, the vow intact, yet the rules fractured. A soldier has knelt, and now the world must decide if that kneel was betrayal or honor. Twilight drapes itself over Arlington, turning the sky a deep indigo bruised with orange at the edges. Floodlights bloom across the plaza, washing the tomb in stark spectral white, floodlights buzzing. The eternal flame grows fierce in the gathering dark, its smoke trailing like a thin hymn into the night. The air smells of cooling stone and the faint ozone of approaching storm. The guard is still kneeling, his rifle rests firm across his chest, steel gleaming silver under the floodlights, bayonet, pointed skyward like a shard of lightning. The child stands before him, small and trembling, caught between awe and fear. The mother sobs at the rope, velvet cutting her palms as she strains against it. Crowd murmurs. The crowd is restless, reverence fractured by whispers. "He broke protocol," someone hisses. "They'll strip his badge." Another voice. "He's finished. He'll never march again." The words ripple like smoke through the air. Two men in suits, officials, speak low behind the president's wreath stand, their voices sharp, urgent. "This can't stand. A guard never kneels." The other shakes his head, sweat shining in the floodlight. "He already did, and the world just saw it." The veteran grips his cane, his voice raw but steady. "Don't you understand? This isn't weakness. It's the oath remembering its purpose." His words cut into the murmurs, quieting a few, enraging others. The child hiccups, wiping his nose on his sleeve, then looks up again. His eyes lock onto the sentinel's stillness. Something in the boy shifts, fear shrinking, trust growing. He takes one small step forward, then another. His sneakers squeak faintly on marble. Child's shoes squeaking. The mother cries out, but too softly to stop him. The guard does not speak. He cannot. But he does something no training manual has ever taught. Slowly, with deliberate gravity, he extends one gloved hand. The gesture is silent, steady, an invitation without a word. The rifle never leaves his other hand. The tomb never loses his gaze. The boy stares at the hand. His sobs fade into shallow breaths. The crowd holds its own breath, as though the next heartbeat will write history. The boy places his small fingers into the guard's palm. The contrast is sharp, crisp white glove against a tiny trembling hand, innocence resting in the grip of discipline. The mother collapses into tears at the rope. The veteran salutes, tears burning tracks down his face. The crowd gasps, some openly weeping, some covering mouths in disbelief. Crowd gasp. Legend forms in that instant, floodlights casting a sentinel and child in stark white glow, the tomb blazing behind, rifle gleaming, bayonet bright. A soldier who swore never to break posture, guiding a child back to safety with one hand, oath intact, humanity revealed. Step by step, the guard rises to his full height, pulling the child gently toward the rope. His boots strike marble with ritual thunder, boots slamming. The boy's red coat glows under the lights, his small face turned upward in quiet wonder. Together they move across the plaza, silence more powerful than any command. At the rope, the guard releases him. The mother scoops her child into her arms, holding him tight, sobbing into his hair. The boy turns once, over her shoulder, and salutes clumsily with his small hand. The guard's face does not change, but his rifle snaps back across his chest in perfect reply. Rifle snapping. The crowd erupts, not in applause, but in silence deeper than anything before. Reverence has been reborn, stretched beyond ritual, shaped by mercy. But the officials behind the stand whisper sharper now, their words like knives in the dark. This breach will not go unanswered. He bent protocol. Another voice, colder. We'll see his career ended before dawn. The guard pivots, boots clicking into cadence once more, boots clicking steady. His march resumes, eternal rhythm restored, shadow stretching long into the tomb. Yet the whispers hang heavy, threats coiled in the darkness. The boy salutes again from the crowd, his tears drying, eyes shining as though he has seen something greater than fear. And the moment closes on the edge of a blade. One guard who broke silence to protect innocence, one vow shaken but not shattered, one career now under threat. The tomb breathes in floodlight, eternal flame hissing in night air. And everyone knows, the reckoning is coming. Night has swallowed Arlington whole. The floodlights hold their vigil, making the tomb blaze white against a field of shadow, while the eternal flame whispers steady, smoke curling into a sky jeweled with stars, flame hissing, faint wind stirring leaves. The crowd remains, no one has moved. They know they have witnessed something that will never leave them, though officials mutter in corners, already weighing punishment against mercy. The guard marches again, cadence restored, boots clicking steady, 21 steps turn, rifle snapping with iron authority, rifle snapping. His torn silence has been stitched back into ritual. But the memory of what just happened clings to every witness like smoke. The child, safe in his mother's arms, leans his head against her shoulder, eyes still locked on the sentinel. His small hand rises once more, unprompted, in a clumsy salute. The mother gasps, weeping fresh tears, pressing her lips to his hair. Around them the crowd stirs as if guided by some invisible hand. Veterans straighten, arms stiff with the ache of old bones, but salutes sharp as razors. Mothers bow heads, fathers press hands to hearts. Tourists, once noisy, now stand reverent as parishioners in the world's oldest church. The veteran in the wheelsuit, hair, raises his trembling hand again, his eyes glistening. That's it, he murmurs, though everyone close enough to hear takes it as a commandment. That's why they keep watch. Phones rise, not for spectacle now, but to preserve. Screens glow as cameras catch the image that will race across the world by morning, a sentinel in perfect cadence, floodlit against the tomb, shadow fused into the inscription, known but to God, while a child salutes from the crowd with tear-streaked cheeks. The officials behind the rope whisper fiercely. He broke bearing, he touched a civilian, this cannot stand. Another voice, lower, hesitant. And yet, look. Their eyes move over the crowd, over the reverence, over the silence heavier than any anthem. The guard halts, pivots, rifle firm across his chest, boots cracking on marble. He is the stone again, the embodiment of duty unbroken. Yet in the minds of the people, he is no longer just a soldier of silence. He is a man who bent for innocence, and in that bending revealed the humanity behind the vow. The veteran whispers louder now, voice shaking with awe. Protocol bends, honor does not. His cane taps once against the marble, cane striking stone. The crowd exhales, the sound like a prayer carried on night wind. The mother holds her boy tighter, whispering through tears, "He'll never forget this. Neither will she, neither will anyone." The guard resumes his march, boots clicking slow, deliberate. The floodlight casts his shadow long and eternal, fusing man and stone, the living and the unknown. The cadence is thunder, rolling over the graves, carrying beyond the hill, into the city, into the hearts of all who will hear this story retold. Legend crystallizes in the final image, a lone sentinel marching beneath the stars, rifle gleaming silver, torn sleeve fluttering in the night breeze, shadow fused with the tomb itself. In the crowd, a child salutes, hand trembling but steady, face lit by the eternal flame. Between them, silence bridges centuries. And the narration closes, heavy as scripture, cloth can tear, protocol can bend, but honor does not break. At Arlington, silence is not weakness, it is the loudest voice. And on this night, one guard spoke with silence, for the unknown, for the fallen, for a child who will carry that vow in his memory forever. If this story reached you, let it travel farther. Share it, so others remember that silence can guard louder than any command. Subscribe for more untold stories of duty, sacrifice, and honor that endures beyond protocol. And leave your reflection below, because every word you add becomes part of the eternal vow to never forget the unknown.